Hello, everyone. I have Nick Buckley, MBE, with me in this podcast. Nick, thank you for your time. It's a pleasure to see you again.
It's always a pleasure to come on your show and have a chat.
Thank you. And I always describe Nick Buckley as the most genuine and honest politician I've ever met in my life. And the reason I've asked Nick to spare his precious time for me tonight is because of a video I saw from Manchester. Let's show the video to the viewers first, and then we come back and talk about it.
Apparently they're allowed to chase people with horses. They just chase someone with an horse. They just chase people with horses. Are they part of Greater Manchester Police? How come they're not being nicked for chasing them people with horses then? They've just been chasing people with horses, officer.
Yeah, with
These have been chasing people with horses.
Morning, Instagram.
whatever they want.
Whatever they want, clearly.
Yeah, start making up. If they're junior
Clear, yeah. Clearly.
Jen, I told you. Let's get going. Let's get going.
They should be being nicked. Should be being nicked, officer. They've just been chasing people on horses. Why are they not being nicked?
With the greatest respect, what do you want me to do and pull him off the horse?
Yeah. If they had a Union Jack on, they'd be off the horse.
Well, I'm not going to pull someone off the horse, mate.
If they had a Union Jack on, you would.
Now, the background to this is that there's a couple of Iranian regime outlets in Manchester, and with everything that's happening in Iran, there's a lot of Iranian dissident expats who'd gathered outside these outlets protesting, and then there was also a counter protest by regime supporters outside these outlets. And from what you hear for the person who's filming this is that it looked like they were chasing some of the counter protesters on horses. Nick, you live in Manchester. You know Manchester better than me. What's going on?
This is a really, really good story. The national press haven't picked this up yet. I don't think anybody really knows who these guys are, what's going on. So you're correct. There was demonstrations in Manchester city centre. We've got the pro-Islamic regime supporters. And always confuses me, if they're pro-Islamic regime supporters, what the hell they're doing in the UK? So they're protesting, and then we've got the people protesting that they're happy that the regime may be collapsing. So we've got two sets of mainly of Iranians, but other people joining these groups as well.
Yeah, in fact, the main supporters of the regime, they're not Iranian. They're actually non-Iranian Muslims. I mean, the Shia Pakistanis, for example, they are very zealous, very sort of hardline regime supporters, actually. So it's mainly those that are standing outside those regime outlets, facing off the Iranian dissident expats.
Oh, absolutely. And mixed in with them will be every other person who hates the UK will be stood with them, because this is just the latest incident now where you can join a march, you can join something because basically you hate the UK, and that's why they're there.
And it's interesting that the Iranian dissident expats, they always carry flags of England and Union Jacks with them. So they don't hate UK. They're quite sort of grateful for having been hosted in this country. It's normally the other side that hates the UK.
Oh yeah, and that's exactly the point I was making. I don't know much about horses, but even I look at those horses and go, they look like expensive horses.
Well, horse riding is a hobby of mine, actually, and there were proper horse riders, and they looked like absolutely top class horses as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You could tell that just by looking at them. No, they're not pulling ploughs in a field somewhere in Cheshire. And the video guy who's filming it said they'd been chasing people with horses. What we need to understand is horses have been animals of war for thousands of years. You know, we had knights on horses, you know, battles. Why are these two men bringing horses to a street demonstration? I would ask the same question if somebody brought two, pit bulls to a demonstration, because dogs have been used as animals of war as
They
well.
expect the police to come with their horses in a demonstration,
Hmm.
but not non-police.
Yeah, absolutely. It's horses are an old version of a tank. That's why we use them, because they're big, powerful animals. I'm shocked that someone's brought them to a street demonstration. I'm shocked that they've been accused of chasing people on their horses. And for people who have never stood next to a horse, if you stand next to a horse, they're big and scary when you're next to them. They're not, they're not these little cuddly things. They're big, powerful animals when you're next to them. And the police didn't expect this at all. And the officer speaking to camera said all the wrong things, but didn't know what they were doing. So I don't expect the police to have a plan ready for people bringing horses to a demonstration, because they've never seen that before. But they need a plan for next week in case it happens again. You know, the questions I'd have is, first of all, is it illegal? And it's not illegal to have a horse and take it to the city centre. I know that's
Yeah,
not
I
illegal.
looked it up. It's not illegal, but
Yeah.
it's highly unusual for people on horses in an urban area like we see in the video. It's like, I
Yeah.
mean, I've never seen anyone on horses in, say, Oxford Street or something. And do you know whereabouts in Manchester it is? But I mean, it doesn't look like a farmyard or somewhere where you expect people to go for horse riding. It's proper urban area.
But looking at the video, I thought it looked like Manchester City Centre to me.
Right.
So we're talking about the heart of Manchester City Centre. So it's not illegal to bring a horse into the city centre, but I'm sure there's legislation somewhere about, along the lines of offensive weapons and we've got that many laws in this country that bringing a big animal like that to a street demonstration must be breaching something. I'd put money on it. It's breaching something. But those officers weren't ready for that, and I can't blame him not being ready for that. But the officers remark, "What do you want me to do about it?" It's like just the unprofessionalism of our police across this country just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. So I don't always expect the police to have an answer, but I just expect a little bit of professionalism. He should have said, "I'm sorry, sir, but I've not come across that before. I don't want to pull him off his horse because his horse will be loose in the city centre. That could be a danger to other people. I'm phoning it through to my bosses, to Silver Command, to Gold Command, because they need to know." There was lots of answers he could have given and been a professional officer. But to say, "What do you want me to do, mate?" isn't what we expect from the police. But I think it's an extremely serious incident of how we're ratcheting up these sort of street demonstrations, that people think it's okay now to bring animals of war for their side.
Yeah, the police looked completely lost. They really didn't know what to do. The two horse riders, they also seem to be wearing armbands. But you think they might be reflective things because it was night, or do you think they were armbands? Because if they were armbands, then it sort of like raises more questions, doesn't it?
I quickly studied the armbands. They look like reflective armbands to me, which again, if you're on a horse at night, I'm sure there's legislation like there is bicycle riding. You need lights, you need this, you need that. So I'm sure they look like reflective bands to me. But I spoke to someone today, and again, I can't verify this, and I didn't see the photo, but they said they've seen photos of these two guys in that incident, and the armbands had writing on it, and someone said it said something like Sharia. Now, I didn't see any of that in the video, so all that just might be, made up on X, because you get things made up on X. So I didn't see any of that. But from what I could see from the video, they were reflective armbands.
I don't know if I didn't notice the writings, but the thing is, I mean, it's something that's brought a lot of questions. It's gone relatively viral on the social media. So the police should give some sort of explanation, some sort of context afterwards. Okay, they were lost at the time because it was so unusual. They obviously weren't trained to, as to know what to do. But a lot of people are asking what is going on. So the police shouldn't be silent there. They should give some sort of explanation. I mean, it might be something completely innocent. I mean, we just don't know. I mean, we're sort of like brainstorming at the moment a little bit, really, aren't we? But I'm just genuinely interested because there is a sort of like an innocent scenario, and then there could be a worst case scenario as well. And it's I think it's important for the police to give some context to explain what actually was going on, rather than us just sort of like watching the video and making up our mind about it. Don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. And in the absence of information, rumours spread. So
Yes.
now I've just mentioned then, the armbands may have had Sharia wrote on it because that's what I'm being told, but the police are telling us nothing. And then in the next minute, the police will be saying, please don't speculate. As well, I will, if you don't give me information, I'm going to speculate. So don't tell me not to speculate. And again, before I came on this podcast with you, I quickly looked on the Manchester Evening News website. And they mentioned it briefly in an article about this demonstration, and it was one line basically saying, and two men appeared to be on horses. So even the mainstream press in the area are not investigating who those men were, why they're not even asking the police for information, trying to hold the police accountable. There's just this big void of information, and it's always the same reason, and it's because the state, the police, are scared stiff that if they do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing, things may escalate and they'll be blamed for the escalation. But do you know what? In a free democracy, in my country, I expect to be told the truth by all arms of the state. Tell us what's going on. And sometimes they won't have the answers. Sometimes, we all make mistakes, and I accept that. But what I won't accept is being ignored and being lied to. And at the moment, we're being ignored. We don't know who these guys were. Several police officers spoke to these men. You could see it on the video. So they must have asked them questions. Who are you? We would know something. The police must know something about him. I'm not saying we need their names and addresses, but if it's purely innocent or purely whatever, they would have told the police. And in which case, the police should be telling us.
Because it is dangerous, isn't it? I mean, if you go with a couple of horses in middle of a demonstration where both sides are shouting and sparks are flying, I mean, the horses could suddenly react, and all sorts of incidents could happen. So, but I mean, I'm hoping that if people are watching this video, if anyone's in Manchester, if anyone was in that area, maybe they have more context about what happened, and maybe they will let us know in the comments. So thank you for giving us your views about that. And while I have the opportunity to have you on the podcast, how are you doing these days? What's happening with you? I understand you're a member of the Advanced UK now.
Yeah, I joined Advance UK a couple of months ago. I just stood in the Gorton Denton by-election for Advance UK. That was hard work. The result was awful at the end of the 4-week campaign, but hey, that's politics. The Greens won, which, they're nutcases. But me personally, I'm just about to start writing my 6th book. So I've spent the last 6 months doing research, and so maybe tomorrow I need to start. I've been putting it off for weeks. Tomorrow I need to put pen to paper and start writing. And the book is going to be, at the moment, the working title is Who Killed the UK? And I'm looking into different aspects: feminism, socialism, mass migration. I'm looking at different aspects of why the UK is in the mess it's in.
Well, we look forward to your next book, and I hope that we can talk about it when it's published.
Sure.
But now that you mentioned Advance UK, this is a question that I think a lot of other people are asking as well. Do you not think that we're splitting the vote against the Uni Parties by having another party running in the elections?
I've had that a lot over the last month when I was standing for election. So the first thing is, we have the Uni Party, Labour, Lib Dems, Tories, but I also put Reform in there now. So Reform to me are the Uni Party. They're full of Tories, they're full of Labour, ex-politicians, councillors, but especially Tories. So over half of Reform MPs are Tories who was in government a couple of years ago. So they're not something different. They're a rebranding of the Tory party. Now, if you want to talk about Advance and Restore Britain, they're going to be in competition with each other. They'll be splitting the right vote. But we'll see what happens there. Maybe when they both don't win anything because they're against each other, maybe then we'll look at mergers. Maybe one of the parties will fail and the other one will be successful. Or maybe another party will launch who will be the saviour of the UK. In a democracy, it's down to the voter who they vote for. And saying to the voter, you've got far too much choice, that isn't democracy. So we need to see what goes on in the next year, next 18 months. And you're right. I think the right do need to coalesce around someone, around a party, around an idea, because having all these parties, and there's many parties on the right, small parties, but we're in a time of turbulence at the moment. We've got no idea what's going to happen. But I'm glad we've got turbulence, because out of that, something different will appear. I don't know what it is, but something positive will appear.
But Nick, you mentioned about the defections from the Tory party. I mean, isn't that something that should be welcomed, in the sense that we need a combination, a mixture of freshness and also experience, because government experience matters as well. When it comes to the voting day, people are not just going to choose in the next general election. People are not just going to choose their next party that governs Britain on the basis of one issue, mass migration. They want to know, who's my Minister of Education, who's my minister, who's my Home Secretary. And to bring some experience, people who have been in government, because it is a difficult thing. You do need some experience in running government. It's easier to be in opposition, if you like, than actually be in government. And these are the people that have seen the errors of the past and the shortcomings of the past. So by bringing them into our ranks, is that such a bad thing?
Well, I'd have probably said, you know what, that's probably sensible. But I've got to the stage now where we don't need the politicians who failed us for 14 years in the next government, because they've got experience. They have got experience. They've got experience of failure.
These politicians that we're talking about, were they the failures, or was it this civil service that they had to deal with that made sure that they failed? Because now they have the experience of what went wrong. And by bringing that experience over to the new party that they've joined, it may be that they will be able to handle it better if another opportunity arises. Because, for a time, it looked like no matter who the Home Secretary was, for example, they couldn't deal with the civil service there. The civil service wouldn't allow the Home Secretaries to implement their policies. So are we talking about the failures by these specific people, or is it a system that's been infiltrated and taken over that needs to be put right? And if anything, they have some experience that maybe can help us to deal with that.
I think they're all to blame. So what's not going to happen is whoever wins the next election is going to use politicians who have some experience of being stopped by the civil service. And they think because they've been stopped before, they now know how to get the civil service working for them. They won't. What we need is a government getting into power who's going to take a hatchet to the civil service, sack layers of it, pass new laws where government ministers can actually sack top civil servants. We need someone going in there as a disruptor. We need someone who's going to tip the table upside down and see where the chips fall. We're not going to change anything with failed politicians who are going to try to tweak the civil service, try to get the civil service doing a little bit more what we want them to do, because none of that will work. Someone needs to take a hatchet to the civil service. That takes bravery. It takes a backbone. It takes new ideas. It takes a whole new way of thinking of things. And there's many people who can advise governments about the blockages, and these will be the barriers. And we need lots of people with advice for a new government. We just don't need failed politicians.
You say we don't need failed politicians, and maybe I agree with that. But at the same time, do you not think that people might be a bit hesitant about unknown quantities, people who have never been in government? Because, as I said again, as I said before, it's easier to be in opposition, to criticize, than actually having been in government. So, isn't it better to have a mixture of both?
Who knows? Let me put it this way. Having experience in government hasn't done us any good in the last 30 years. We've had loads of experience in government and it's led to the mess we're in now. So I don't think we need experience of the system that we need to tear down, because we're tearing it down. We need competency. No, we don't need experience. We need competent people. Politicians at that level have experience, but they have experience of playing the game. That's why we're in a mess. We need to get people who are really, really competent, really clever, really knowledgeable in certain areas. We need successful politicians. We need doctors and surgeons. We need lots of different people with lots of different top quality knowledge in Parliament. But then we also need the driving machine from the political parties who want change. And we need to be recruiting people as the advisors to say, right, you want these things to be done, and they're your ideas and they're fantastic ideas. We get those things done by doing this, by sacking the top civil servants, by hiring the top civil servants that we want on a short-term contract, by making sure we hold civil servants to account, by making sure we slash the size of the state. There's lots of things we need to do. And no government's ever done this. So those politicians don't have the experience of that. And if it makes you feel better, I don't mean you personally, but the voter, if it makes people feel better that we've got politicians with experience, it's like, well, you're part of the problem, as in you just want the status quo. And the status quo is dragging us into hell very slowly over decades and decades. The status quo can't go on any longer. We need to take some risk, and there is risk in the things I'm suggesting, but it's the only way we're going to get a better tomorrow. We need to start taking some risk, because what we've got is killing us.
Well, I think whether we agree or we disagree, the important thing is that we can debate these things and talk to each other about this, because that's what democracy is. And I always believe that by asking questions and by debating, we always in a better position to make a better judgment. But one thing I'm pretty certain, if anyone can put the Manchester police right, that is Nick Buckley. There is no one more suited than Nick Buckley to be the mayor of Manchester and to put all the things that have gone wrong with Manchester police right. So at least in that regard, I'm always on your side, and I wish you the best. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Nick. I know you're busy with writing your book and other stuff and that, and I really appreciate the you sparing your time for me. And again, if anyone knows anything more about that video, please get in touch with us. Let us know, because it's important that the facts are become known, and we don't speculate, as Nick said very appropriately. Thanks a lot, Nick. Cheers.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.